Okay. All right, today we have solving quadratics. So what we're going to be doing is factoring quadratic equations and then solving for x. So hopefully we know how to factor somewhat by now. We factored at the beginning of this chapter. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So for number one, x squared minus 64. This is a difference of two squares. So remember that a difference of squares will factor. Let me see, what's it good? There we go. So this difference of squares, if it was given as a squared minus b squared, will factor to a plus b times a minus b. And they have to be two perfect squares. So this means that x squared minus 64 is going to factor to x plus 8, x minus 8 equal to 0. And now, since we have completely factored it, all we have to do is set each term equal to 0. So you'll take x plus 8, set it equal to 0, x minus 8, set it equal to 0. And all you have to do here is solve for x. So you'll get x equals negative 8 and x equals 8. There we go. Okay. So again, all we're doing is factoring and solving for x. All right. Second one. 2. X squared minus 6x minus 16. So now we have a trinomial, and these are the easy trinomials to factor because all we have to know is the factors of the constant. And of course, the signs come in handy. Minus minus means that you'll get x plus a number, x minus a number, and set that equal to 0. And what are two factors of 16 that could make negative 6?
2 and 8.
2 and 8. And since 6 is negative, this means the bigger number 8 will be negative and the smaller number will be positive. Okay, now this is factored and it's factored correctly. So go ahead and set each term equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay, there it is. All right. 3, same thing. If we want to solve for x, you have to have 0 on one side of the equation. So for number 3, you have x squared plus 3x equal to 40. What we're going to do is take this 40 and just subtract it to the left side. So we're going to rewrite this as x squared plus 3x minus 40 equal to 0. So the only way we can solve for x is if we have a 0 on the other side. Okay, and now, once again, these are the easy trinomials to factor. We only have to worry about the factors of the constant and, of course, the signs of the trinomial. So this is plus minus. This means you'll get x plus a number and x minus a number equal to 0. Well, what are the factors of 40 that could possibly make 3?
5 and 8.
5 and 8. Good. 3, no, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. There you go. So since 3 is positive, this means the bigger number will be positive and the smaller number will be negative. Okay. This is factored. It's factored correctly. Set both of these equal to 0 and solve for x. You'll get x equals negative 8 and x equals 5. Okay. Any questions so far? So this is just factoring again. And the only thing new is after it's factored, you set it equal to 0 and solve for x. Nothing else. Okay. Let's keep going. 4. 2x squared plus 3x plus 1 equal to 0. Again, factor it. So this one, you have to worry about the factors of the leading coefficient, and you have to worry about the factors of the constant. And of course, the signs. This is plus plus, which means that this is going to set up to 2x plus a number and x plus a number equal to 0. Okay. Well, lucky for us, what are the only factors of 1?
That would be 1.
That would be 1. 1 and 1. She says, I keep cutting off. Can everybody else hear me okay? Or do I keep going in and out?
You sound pretty clear to me.
Okay. Then it could be just a possible internet connection, Dolores. All right. So now this is factored. It's correctly factored. So now you'll set each of these equal to 0. 2x plus 1 equal to 0. X plus 1 equal to 0. And solve for x. So we'll get over here, 2x equals -1. And then you'll divide by 2. And x equals -1/2. Over here, x will just equal -1. Okay, perfect. All right, 5, x squared minus 100. This again is another difference of squares. So this means that this will factor to x plus 10, x minus 10 equal to 0. And then set each term equal to 0. And you'll get x equals -10 and x equals 10. There we go. All right. Number 6. X squared plus 6x equal to 0. Okay, so here we see we only have 2 terms. So when we only have 2 terms, we have to just find a greatest common factor. So here you see x squared and 6x. What could you factor from x squared and 6x?
X.
Take an x out. So if we factor an x out, this will leave me with x plus 6 equal to 0. So we factor the x out, and I have x times x plus 6 equal to 0, which means this is factored. We can't do anything else. So you'll set each of these equal to 0. So first one would be x equal to 0. And the next one would be x plus 6 equal to 0. Well, this x equal to 0, hey, that's already solved. Now for x plus 6 equal to 0, just subtract it over and done. Okay. Any questions on those 3?
No, sir.
Not bad, right?
Nope, pretty easy.
Okay. 7. negative 5w plus w squared minus 6 equal to 0. So this isn't in the proper format. So we want to put it into proper form. So what I'm going to do is just rewrite it with the highest power first. So we're going to have this as w squared minus 5w minus 6 equal to 0. And then we're going to factor it. So my signs here are minus minus, which means that I'll get w minus a number, w plus a number. And what are the two factors of 6 that are going to work here?
6 and 1.
6 and 1, good. So since the 5 is negative, we're going to have the negative 6 and the positive 1 here. All right. And now this is factored. It's completely factored. So we'll set each term equal to 0. W minus 6 equals 0. W plus 1 equal to 0. Solve for x, or w, sorry. W equals 6. W equals negative 1. Okay. Number 8. 30y cubed plus 2y to the 4th plus 112y squared. Oof. All right. So we know that this is not our common form because we see powers greater than 2. So we have y cubed and y to the 4th. So what I'm going to do on this one is just rewrite it with the highest power first. And then we'll look for a greatest common factor. So we'll rewrite this one as 2y to the 4th plus 30y cubed plus 112y squared equal to 0. So I just did it from highest power to lowest power, our standard form. Okay, and now let's look for a common factor. I have 2, 30, and 112. What could I factor out?
2y squared.
Good. 2, and then you have y to the 4th, y cubed, y squared. You can take out a y squared. Okay, so we factored 2y squared from every term. This should leave me with y squared plus 15y plus, what's 112 divided by 2? Is that 56?
Yes, sir.
All right, equal to 0. Okay, we still have some factoring to do. So let's go ahead and factor the inside polynomial. And I'll have the 2y squared on the outside. Here you have plus plus, which means that you'll get y plus a number and y plus a number. And what are the two factors of 56 that could make 15? What was that? Let's see. 1 and 56, 2 and 28. Does 3 go in there? No. Does 4 go in there? Four and 14, 5, no.
8 and 7.
8 and 7, good. So you'd have 7 and 8. Good. So there you get 7 and 8. Okay, perfect. Now, this is completely factored. So you will set each term equal to 0 and solve for y. So you'll get 2y squared equal to 0. Y plus 7 equal to 0. And y plus 8 equal to 0. All right. Then on 2y squared, you'll divide by 2. And that'll still give you y squared equals 0. Over here, you'll get y equals -7 and y equals -8. Okay, so we haven't learned this method yet, but we will on the next page. It's called the square root method. So when you have y squared equal to a number, in order to solve for just y, you would square root both sides. And this would leave us with just y equal to 0. And there's our answer. Again, we'll learn more about the square root method on the next page. Okay. All right, number 9. -2a squared plus 12a equal to 16. So once again, I want to put this in proper form, which means I need 0 on one side. So we're going to take this 16 and subtract it to the left. So we should have -2a squared plus 12a minus 16 equal to 0. So we just move that 16 over. And then we see I have a -2, a 12, and a 16. What number could we factor out?
-2.
Good. We'll take out a -2. This will leave me with +a squared minus 6a plus 8. Okay. And now we have to factor the inside polynomial, the trinomial. And if you look at the signs, minus plus, that means it's going to be minus minus. So bring that -2 down, and we'll get a minus the number times a minus the number. Well, what are the 2 factors of 8 that can make -6?
8 and 2.
Not 8 and 2. Factors of 8.
Oh, sorry. 2 and 4.
2 and 4. There you go. 2 and 4. That'll give me -6. Okay. So again, this is factored correctly and completely. So you'll set each term equal to 0. All right. So set each term equal to 0. Well, this -2 is not going to matter, but I'll show you why. Because if you set -2 equal to 0, does that make sense? Does -2 equal to 0 tell us anything?
It's not true.
It's not true, right? Because the only reason this doesn't work out is because there's not a variable on it. If this said -2a equal to 0, then that would make sense. But since it's just -2, we don't have to worry about it. We only worry about a minus 2 and a minus 4, which means my 2 answers are a equals 2 and a equals 4. All right, not bad. Right. Any questions on those 3?
No, sir.
All right. All right, last 3 for this page. All right, 10. Z squared minus 16z plus 48. All right, so again, another easy one to factor. Signs are minus plus, which means you'll get z minus a number and z minus a number equal to 0. Okay, What are two factors of 48 that can make negative 16?
$12 and 4.
12 and 4. If you add those up, you get 16. So that means I'll put a 4 here and a 12 there. Okay. So here, you'll get z minus 4 equal to 0. Z minus 12 equal to 0. And you'll get z equals 4 and z equals 12. Okay, not bad. Keep moving. All right, 11. You have 8p equal to negative 48 plus p squared. Okay, so again, I want to put everything in proper form. So what we're going to do this time is take this 8p and subtract it to the right side, since everything's on the right side. If we do that, you'll get 0 on the left side. And in proper form, you'll get p squared minus 8p minus 48. P squared minus 8p minus 48. Okay. And all we have to do now is factor. And again, another easy one to factor. So this is minus minus, meaning you'll have p plus a number and p minus a number. And what are two factors of 48 that could make negative 8?
12 and 4.
12 and 4. And since the 8 is negative, this means the bigger number 12 will be negative and the smaller number 4 will be positive. Okay. Now just set these equal to 0. And solve for p. There we go. All right. Last one for this page, negative 40t minus 30t squared plus 10t cubed. Again, I want this in proper format, so I'm going to rewrite it with the highest power first. 10t cubed minus 30t squared minus 40t equal to 0. And now we see that there's a 10, a 30, and a 40. What could we factor out?
10.
10.
T.
Good. And then you said t cubed, t squared, t. You can factor out a t. And if I take out a 10t, we'll be left with t squared minus 3t minus 4 equal to 0. And we just have to factor the inside. Bring the 10t down. And again, the inside trinomial is one of the easy ones to factor. It's minus minus. So this means you'll get t plus a number, t minus number equal to 0. And what are the only factors of 4 that can make 3?
4 and 1.
4 and 1. And since 3 is negative, the bigger number 4 will be negative, and the smaller number 1 will be positive. This is factored. It's correctly factored. And now you can set each term equal to 0. Okay. Then for 10t equal to 0, you will divide by 10, and t will equal 0. T plus 1, you'll subtract 1. T equals -1, and then add 4. T equals 4. There you go. That is solving quadratics by factoring. Any questions on this page?
No, sir. Straightforward.
Straightforward. One cool fact is that since these are quadratics, your power is raised to the second. And a cool fact is that whatever your degree is or your exponent is, tells you how many answers you should have. So if this is x squared, that means I have 2 answers, 1, 2. And then for the other one, for the last one we did, it was cubed. That means you should have 3 answers, 1, 2, 3. So the highest exponent tells you how many answers you should have.
Why is 8 not 4?
8, number 8?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a good question. Well, what was the power on that 0 before we square rooted it?
Squared.
Squared. So this means that 0 shows up twice. So 0 is counted twice.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, more on the square root method on the next page. So cool little way to check your work. Your exponent tells you how many answers you should have. Okay. Now we have solving quadratics by the square root property. So the square root property says if b is a real number and a squared equals b, then the square root of this equation will result in a equal to plus or minus the square root of b. So whenever you use the square root method, you will always get 2 answers. You'll have a positive one and a negative one. So I'll show you how that works. So 13, you have x squared equal to 50. So what we're going to do is square root both sides. And this will give me x equals plus or minus the square root of 50. But we have to see if we can break the square root of 50 down. So now we have to look at factors of 50. And whenever you're breaking a square root down, you want to think bigger factors. So what are some factors of 50 that might work here?
25 and 2.
Good. So the square root of 50 can be rewritten as the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. Well, what is the square root of 25?
5.
5. Can you break down the square root of 2 anymore?
No.
No. So this means that our final answer is going to be x equals plus or minus 5 times the square root of 2. That's it. Okay. Let's try it again. Okay. 14. 2x squared equal to 14. So in order to use the square root property, we want to get x by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is divide by 2. Here you'll get x squared equal to 7. And then, since x is all by itself, we're going to use the square root method, and you're going to square root both sides, and we shall get x equals plus or minus the square root of 7. And we can't break down the square root of 7 anymore. So that's it. Okay. 15. You have x plus 1 squared equal to 12. All right. Now this one, we have to get rid of that squared power. So the only way to do that is by square rooting both sides from the beginning. So if you square root a squared power, the root and the power will cancel. So this means that the square root of x plus 1 squared just becomes x plus 1 equal to, and now on the right side, you get plus or minus the square root of 12. Okay. But can we break 12 down?
No. Oh, yeah.
Maybe. What are some numbers that we can take the square root of nicely? What are some factors of 12?
2 and 6.
2 and 6. Those will work, but think of other factors.
3 and 4, no.
3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So your 2 and 6 will definitely work, but it's going to cause more steps.
Okay.
I'll show you why in a second. 3 and 4 are perfect because what's the square root of 4?
2.
2. So this means we can't break down the square root of 3 anymore. So this means that you'll get a 2 and a square root of 3. So you'll get x plus 1 equal to plus or minus 2 square root 3. And all we have to do is take this 1 and subtract it to the right side. And our final answer is going to be negative 1 plus or minus 2 square root 3. Okay. So when breaking down square roots, you want to think of the factors that'll make the work easier. But it's not wrong to think of other factors. Like you said square root of 6 and square root of 2. Well, square root of 2, we know we can't do anything with, but the square root of 6, we know we can keep breaking it down. What factors could you split 6 into?
3 and 2.
Square root of 3, square root of 2. So now, here's what we're left with. Square root of 3 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Well, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is going to be the square root of 4, which just becomes what number?
2.
2. So you get square root of 3 times square root of 4, but then that changes into square root of 3 times 2, giving me 2 square root 3, which is what we got right there. So this is why I say try to find the factors that make your life easier, because let's try this breakdown again. And if I said square root of 12 and you said 4 and 3, well, that becomes 2 and we're done. So it's just playing around with what factors will work best for you. All right. All right, keep going with the square root method. All right, 16, just like 15. What are you on? Green. So we need to get x out of those parentheses. So we square root both sides, and you'll end up with 2x minus 6 equal to plus or minus. And do we finally get a nice square root? What is the square root of 16?
4.
4. That was nice. Okay, so now we're still solving for x. So we have to add this 6 over to the right side. So you'll get 2x equal to 6 plus or minus 4. All right. And then we're going to have two answers here, of course. You're going to have a positive one and a negative one. So here, let me say positive answer is going to be 2x equal to 6 plus 4, which will give me 2x equal to 10. If you divide by 2, you'll get x equals 5. Okay. The other one will be the negative answer. It's going to be 2x equal to 6 minus 4, which will give me 2x equals 2. And if you divide by 2, x will equal 1. All right. So that one we could solve nicely. Unlike 15, there's nothing else you could really do there. -1 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. Unless it wants you to change it into decimal answers on my math lab. I hope it doesn't, but I can show you how to type those in the calculator in a second. Okay. 17 above, you have x squared equals 64. This is set up nicely for the square root method already. So you just square root both sides, and x will equal plus or minus, and what's the square root of 64?
8.
8. Hey, those are nice. That's done. Okay. 18. 4x squared equals 81. Again, get x by itself. So what we're going to do first is divide by 4.
Professor,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, why didn't we do the same plus or minus thing, because it's x and doesn't have a constant?
For which one?
For 17, like why didn't we do
17.
positive and negative?
We have it there. That's why you have the plus or minus 8.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm thinking wrong.
Oh, good. No, it's good to ask those questions. Okay. So 18, we divide by 4 to get x by itself. And now you get 81 over 4, which I don't think goes evenly. So we're going to leave it as 81 over 4. Next, what we're going to do is, of course, square root both sides. You're going to get x equals plus or minus. And what is the square root of 81?
9.
9. And what is the square root of 4?
2.
2. There you go. Plus or minus 9/2. All right. Any questions on those 6 so far?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Also, just a tiny side note, since we're trucking through these, look at number 17. So x squared equals 64. Remember, this is math, so there's multiple ways to solve things. I can take this 64 and move it to the left side. I can make this x squared minus 64 equal to 0. which this becomes a difference of two squares, which will factor to x plus 8, x minus 8 equal to 0. And if you set these equal to 0, well, we arrive at the same answer of x equaling a positive 8 and a negative 8. So different methods, same answer. Okay. Last two. 19, 3x squared minus 8 equal to 19. Okay, so we want to set this up for the square root property. So what I'm going to do first is take this 8 and add it to the right side. We're going to get x by itself. So I add 8, and I get 3x squared equals, what's that, 27. And then I'll divide by 3, and I'll get x squared equals 9. And then very last, I'll square root both sides. And what is the square root of 9?
3.
3. So here you'll get plus or minus 3. Okay. Last one. X minus 5 squared is equal to 36. So we need to get x out of those parentheses. So we're going to square root both sides. Here you'll get x minus 5 equal to plus or minus 36. Not 36. Oops. What is the square root of 36?
6.
6. Okay. And then we'll add that 5 over, and I'll get x equals 5 plus or minus 6. And again, our two answers. We'll have our positive answer, x equals 5 plus 6, which will give me x equals 11. And then you'll have your negative answer, x equals 5 minus 6, which will give me x equals negative 1. There you go. And that is the square root method. All right. Any questions on that page?
No, sir.
All right, all right. Okay. And then the last way to solve quadratic equations is by using something you may know as the quadratic formula. So whenever we're given a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c, and we want to find the solutions to it, then we can use the quadratic formula, which is given as x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Whew, remember that one? Been a while, right? So all you have to do is know what a, b, and c are from the given equation and plug them into that formula above. So let's try it out. Right there is good. Okay, first up, 21 is m squared minus 6m minus 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is label our coefficients. So this is going to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So this means that a is 1, b is negative 6, and c is negative 1. Now again, if you know a, b, and c, you can now plug them into this formula above. All right, so that's what we're going to do here. This equation's in terms of m, so I'm going to say m equals negative b, which is negative 1 times negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 6 squared, minus 4 times a times c. And remember to put this all over 2 times a. There we go. And now let's just go ahead and clean it up. This means that m is going to equal a positive 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared, which is 36. And then negative 4 times 1 times negative 1 gives me positive 4 all over 2. Okay. Still cleaning up. This becomes m equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 40 over 2. Okay, so can we break down the square root of 40? What are two nice factors?
10 and 4.
10 and 4. Square root of 10, square root of 4, a square root of 4 becomes
2.
2. Now the square root of 10, we can break into 5 and 2, but will anything happen there?
No.
Oh, no, because we can't break these down anymore. So we'll just go back to the square root of 10. So this means that you'll get m equals 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 10 all over 2. Oh, man. All right. Almost there. Now you will just reduce everything by 2. You'll do 6 divided by 2 and 2 square root of 10 divided by 2, which means our final answer is 3 plus or minus the square root of 10. And again, to show you that work, I can split this into two fractions, 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root 10 over 2. And here, your 2's would cancel, and 6 over 2 becomes 3. I'll leave that up. That's the quadratic formula, guys. Yeehaw. Ran out of room on that one. There we go. What is it? My math lab may have you split them up. So let's see. I'll say MML. It may have you write 3 plus square root of 10 and 3 minus square root of 10 separately. And it could also make you put a decimal number. So let's explore that. What's up?
Professor, why doesn't it, why don't you have to divide the square root of 10 by 2?
Good. Well, the question is, can you?
No.
No. You can only do the integers, the regular numbers, not the radicals. The only way to divide that is to actually punch it in a calculator. Where's my Desmos? All right, so if we were to put this as a decimal number, there we go, draw, move that, you come down here. I would put, gosh, this thing's annoying. 3 plus square root 10, and I would have 6.16. And then 3 minus square root 10, negative 0.16. In case it asks for decimal answers. Okay. Let's try it again. 22. P squared plus 2p equal to 4. So again, put this in proper format and move that 4 over to the left. So we'll take this 4, move it to the left, and have p squared plus 2p minus 4 equal to 0. And then label off A, B, and C. A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be negative 4. And then we put this into the quadratic formula. And since our variable is P, I'll say P equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. All over, everything over 2 times A. Okay, we have everything plugged in, and now we simplify. So P will be negative 2 plus or minus the square root of, that's 4, and then negative 4 times negative 4, we get positive 16 over 2. More cleanup. P equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 2. Now, can we break down the square root of 20? What are two good numbers?
Four and five.
4 and 5. Perfect. Because that becomes 2. Can't do anything else with the 5. So this means you'll end up with P equals -2 plus or minus 2 square root 5 over 2. And once again, reduce everything by 2. And our final answer is P equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 5. There we go.
So it's definitely best to have something that square roots to 2. If you're doing
it depends. It's not always going to be 2. It just depends on the number. So some of these could just come out really ugly looking, and that's just the way we're going to have to leave it. So
And
not
all-
everything will always be a perfect 2 that comes out.
why
But
is the 4 not negative after distributing on that second?
Why is the 4 not negative? Like, why did it become positive 16?
Or why did the 4 become positive 4?
Oh, there. Hang on. Let me zoom in.
Oh, from the 2 squared. Yeah,
Gotcha.
never mind.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do it again. 23. X squared minus 10x plus 8. All right. Here, your A value is 1. B value is -10. C value is 8. Okay. Now put these into the quadratic formula. And we'll have x equals this time negative times -10 plus or minus the square root of -10 squared minus 4 times A times C. All over 2 times A. Okay, clean up. X equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 100. And then -4 times 8 is -32. All over 2. Okay. Clean up again. And x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 68 over 2. Okay. And now we have to break down the square root of 68. Well, you could always start small. 68 is even, so we could start with what?
2.
2. Let's start with 2. You get square root 2, square root 34. Can you break 34 down some more?
$17 and 2.
17 and 2. Good. So we can't break 17 down anymore, but we know that square root of 2 times the square root of 2 gives me the square root of 4, or just 2. So this would become 2 square root 17. So you'd get x equals 10 plus or minus 2 square root 17 over 2. And then just reduce everything by 2, except for the square root, of course. And our final answer would be 5 plus or minus the square root of 17. Oh man, good stuff. This terrible formula. All right. Any questions on those three?
No, sir.
All right. I mean, if you label everything and plug them in, follow the formula, you're going to be just fine. Which means let's keep going. Last three. 24. X squared minus 8x plus 3. Here, a is 1, b is negative 8, c is 3. Plug into quadratic formula. X equals negative 1 times negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And then here you'll get x equals positive 8 plus or minus the square root of 64. And negative 4 times 1 times 3 is negative 12 all over 2. All right. And then you'll get x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 12. That is 52 all over 2. Now, the question is, can you break down the square root of 52?
$26 and 2.
26 and 2. Good. Can you break 26 down more?
$13 and 2.
And 2. Which
Oh, so
means
you could just do 13 and 4, and I mean you get to the same place. Is that easier though?
exactly. Because remember when I said, think of the factors, think of the bigger ones. So if I erase this and you went, like you just said, 13 and 4, we'd be done because that become 2.
Cool. All right.
So it's not, like I said, it's not wrong to choose the other ones. It's just more work.
Mm-hmm.
So this would become 2 square root 13 over 2. And reduce everything by 2 except the radical. And you'd have 4 plus or minus square root 13. There it is. All right, not bad, not bad. Okay. 25. X squared plus 2x plus 1 equal to 15. All right. So we want to put this into proper form. So you're going to move that 15 over. So we'll subtract 15, and that'll give you x squared plus 2x minus 14 equal to 0. Okay, where A is 1, B is 2, C is negative 14. Put these into the quadratic formula. X equals, and you'll have negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. Clean up. X equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. And 4 times 14, negative 4 times negative 14 gives me 56. All over 2. Clean up some more. X equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 60 over 2. And can we break down the square root of 60?
Four and 15.
4 and 15. Good. That means that becomes 2, and 15 will leave as is. So x will equal negative 2 plus or minus 2 square root 15 over 2. Reduce everything by 2 except the radical, and you'll get negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 15. There it is. Okay. Last one. All right. 26. 7x squared minus 9x plus 1. A is 7. B is negative 9. C is 1. Plug them into your quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. Negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4AC over 2 times A. Hey, you got something different in the denominator. Good. Okay, clean up. X equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 4 times 7 times 1, that's 28, all over 14. Okay. And you'll get x equals 9 plus or minus 81 minus 28 gives me the square root of 53 over 14. And I don't think anything goes into 53, does it?
No, sir.
No. So that means that one is done. All right. And again, for my MATLAB purposes. So again, this is our answer, but it may have you type it in differently. It may make you write this: 9/14 plus square root 53/14, and also 9/14 minus square root 53/14, depending on what it's asking for. And then if you want a decimal number, let's go back to Desmos. Let's type those in. I would have 9/14 plus the square root of 53/14. And the first answer would be 1.16. And then the second answer, if I just change it to a minus, would be 0.12.
On the test, will you have decimal answers?
I guess it depends on the problem, but I mean, let's say that you type the decimal in instead of the fraction, and I go back and look at your work and be like, okay, that's the correct decimal and fraction, then I could give you credit for it.
Okay.
But I'm just showing you multiple answer inputs because my MATLAB is picky. So it may want the one I boxed above, it may want them split up like I bubbled there, or it may just want the decimal number. So knowing how to type these in the calculator is important too. So that's why I showed it on Desmos.
10-4.
Okay. Other than that, that was solving quadratics by the quadratic formula, by the square root method, and by factoring. That means we are done. So if you have questions, stick around. If not, I'll see you on Thursday.